Why is it, I wonder, that life sometimes introduces us to a person who makes every cell in our body hum with recognition, only to whisk them away before we can truly grasp them? Why, amidst the ceaseless tide of faces, does that one face emerge? The one that feels like it's been etched from the very core of our being, yet can never truly stay. And what if the quiet ache of loving someone we cannot have is actually the master key, allowing the universe to unlock parts of ourselves we've kept hidden even from our own gaze? Carl Jung, in his profound wisdom, believed that there's nothing random about our deepest desires. What we yearn for persists. Perhaps in my own life, I've yearned for myself for so long, for a deeper connection to my artistic spirit, that life, in its infinite complexity, sent me an impossible muse. The ethereal street artist I saw that one rainy afternoon in Paris. His vibrant work splattered across a forgotten wall, a fleeting masterpiece in the urban gray. You know, we become so accustomed to silencing our deepest yearnings, to playing the part of the stoic adult. We tell ourselves we don't feel, don't desire, don't dream beyond what's practical, until one fleeting glimpse, one powerful presence, one electric non-touch ignites everything within us. And then the profound truth dawns. Loneliness isn't the absence of another. It's the absence of our truest self. I won't offer platitudes or lie about pain's transformative power. But if you'll stay with me here, in this quiet, reflective space, I'll share some truths that perhaps no one has dared to articulate. You haven't lost anyone, not truly. You've found yourself. That artist, with his paint-splattered hands and intense, dreaming eyes, he appeared like a sudden downpour, asking no permission to soak my carefully constructed composure. Perhaps I wasn't even ready. Nobody ever truly is. A split-second exchange of glances, a shared, unspoken understanding over the vibrant chaos of his art. A connection that resonated without a single word. And just like that, an emptiness was born. Not a void, but a cavernous space that felt grander than any ordinary presence. I tried to fight it, to rationalize, to laugh at myself, dismissing it as a silly infatuation, a romanticized notion. But deep down, I knew it wasn't a whim. It wasn't about the artist himself, but about the profound shift he triggered within me. Carl Jung would have observed that every soul carries secret fragments of emptiness, places that cannot be filled by routine or by a love that has been tamed. And then, life, in its curious way, sends someone who precisely hooks into that particular aching fragment. We label it as love, desire, fate, but it's really just you, remembering pieces of yourself that you allowed to wither. You don't truly desire the other person. You desire the person you become when you look at them. You crave the courage, the effortless laughter, the fire that now courses through your veins. You want to experience, if only for a few breathtaking seconds, a life lived in a way you can't articulate to anyone else. That impossible artist. He was my most brutal, yet also my most sacred mirror. He reflected back to me the fierce, uninhibited creativity I had suppressed, the vibrant colors I had traded for muted tones, the daring passion I had convinced myself was impractical. He showed me who I could be if I weren't so afraid, if I hadn't settled for diluted passions, for fragments of a life I truly desired, for diluted courage. He didn't appear to be mine, but to be my clarion call, my urgent warning. Wake up. Beneath this weary veneer, a wildfire still burns. I know it feels unfair. How can I carry the light I witnessed, only to return to a perceived darkness? How can I breathe with this searing emptiness in my chest? How can I fall asleep knowing that somewhere, his laughter, his voice, the messy brilliance of his art exist, yet will never be part of my daily routine? But who said he had to stay? Some presences are so monumental that conventional human love cannot contain them. We try to confine them to a summer, a week, a shared cup of coffee. But such profound encounters don't fit into the mundane. They live only in the soul, and that is why they hurt, and that is why they set us free. You cannot possess what came to remind you of the boundless infinity within yourself. One might try to force conversations, to plead for another chance, to shyly hope to transform this fleeting encounter into a shared life. But a part of you already knows. It wouldn't work, and it shouldn't. If it had worked, if that impossible artist had become routine, I would have calmed myself once more, extinguished the fire to fit into a predictable relationship, into the everyday, into habitual living. And all the divine spark of that encounter would have died, suffocated by the mundane. So perhaps it's time to cease struggling against what has no conventional solution. Instead of demanding that the world return the impossible, ask yourself what this impossible encounter revealed about you. Consider what it was in him that ignited such a blaze within. His fearless brushstrokes, his unapologetic expression, the way he captured raw emotion on a forgotten canvas without seeking permission, the depth in his eyes as if he heard the unspoken narratives of the city. Now look in the mirror. Where does that fearless creativity live in me? Why did I suppress it? Why am I so terrified of being that uninhibited? Jung asserted that he who looks in the mirror dreams, while he who looks inward awakens. That impossible artist was my urgent invitation to stop dreaming about my art and, at last, to awaken to the artist within myself. You won't forget him, and you shouldn't wish to. That mirror is now your internal fire. Every time the ache returns, remind yourself that you are capable of feeling such intensity. This means you are capable of living at that same heightened level. That impossible artist is not your missing half, but the powerful declaration of your own inherent wholeness. As nostalgia tears at you, embrace it. As memories make you shy, let a faint smile grace your lips. As it burns in your chest, breathe, you are alive. And this exquisite pain is your undeniable certificate of existence. Let it burn. It consumes everything that is not truly you. Have you ever truly, deeply looked at yourself in the mirror? Not just the hurried glance in the morning, correcting your hair, assuming all is well. I mean looking into the depths of your own eyes until you feel a blush of shame for all that you've kept hidden there. That's how Jung viewed the human psyche. A mirror that doesn't lie, even when you vehemently lie to yourself. When someone impossible crosses your path, Jung would suggest, don't flee. Look beyond that person. It's not merely a body, a voice, or captivating eyes. It is a symbol, a projection. It is your own unknown embodied, to scream the truth you've silenced. In Jung's terms, projection is when we cast onto another everything we cannot acknowledge in ourselves. We fall in love with someone who lives freely, embodying the very courage we crave to live ourselves. We see in another the freedom, the passion, the audacity that we sacrificed to fit into that comfortable life we label as stability. Look at this impossible person and ask yourself what about them makes you burn. Perhaps it was his untamed laugh, or the way he fearlessly threw himself into his art without concern for critics, or the profound depth in his gaze as if he saw the stories hidden within every brick and alleyway. All of this is yours, not his. He merely reflected it. This is the mirror that your unknown self placed before you, so you might finally see that beneath the dull skin of routine, a fire still blazes. Every projection is a slowed-down cry of self-knowledge. It's as if your soul is saying, "Look, this is who you could be if you stopped sabotaging yourself." But it hurts, doesn't it? Because the mirror, while revealing, also frustrates. You reach out, but you cannot possess. You yearn, but they do not stay. And then the confusion begins. You believe that the other person is the solution, that only with them will you feel whole again. How foolish. Jung would smile faintly. The other is not your savior, but your messenger. They came not to fill your emptiness, but to show you where those empty spaces are. What will you do next? The choice is yours. Some retreat, block, ignore, throwing themselves into comfortable relationships to pretend the wound never existed. Others cling to the pain like an addiction, replaying every word, every laugh, every imagined touch. They feed the emptiness as if it's fuel to feel alive, even in a life consumed by nostalgia. But there is another path, the rarest one. The path of someone who understands that loving the impossible is, in essence, loving oneself for the first time, yet not yet knowing how to gaze into Jung's mirror. And instead of shattering it or stealing the image, they intend to become what it shows. Think about what lives in that person that you have buried within yourself. The courage to say no. The urge to laugh loudly, even if society dictates silence. A love that makes your blood boil with every choice. Now, in the quiet, promise yourself, I don't need him to be this way. I only need myself. Jung spoke of the self in the sacred core, within each of us crying out to be lived fully. Every profound encounter is a key. Every pain inflicted by another is a door. You decide whether to open them or to continue sleeping, pretending there's nothing to unlock. Perhaps life's greatest irony is that someone impossible comes to teach you to be possible. You spend sleepless nights desiring another when you should be building yourself. And you know, this is the ultimate gift of emptiness, to transform pain into strength, to become so complete that one day, remembering that fleeting smile, you won't think, I need him to be happy, but you'll declare, I needed him to awaken to who I always was. Jung's mirror doesn't lie, and it will materialize in the form of a face you cannot kiss when you wish to. Use it wisely, because if you are brave enough to truly see the image, you will never be the same person. There are pains that tear apart, and pains that stitch together. Impossible love does both simultaneously. It shatters you into 1,000 pieces, but leaves you more whole than you ever were before. Strange, isn't it? But that's how the universe teaches you what you would never have dared to learn on your own. When someone burns brightly within you, yet doesn't inhabit your daily routine, you are compelled to learn a kind of love that most people will never experience. Love without possession, without control, without promises. Love that exists to open space, not to fill it. Jung saw such pain as something sacred. It's not a defeat, but a consecration. Pain that doesn't kill, but makes you stronger, brighter, wilder inside. Look, pain isn't the absence of a person. It's the destruction of illusions about love. We grow up believing that to love means to possess, to hold tightly, to make plans, to ensure presence. But life often challenges that belief. It tells you, not always. And you are forced to love without possession. To love knowing you won't receive what you desire. To love understanding that sometimes it means letting go. It means letting go. It hurts like 1,000 demons, but it purifies. Because this pain does something that no comfortable relationship ever does. It digs deep, obliterates the superficial, reveals who you are when you stand without guarantees. You are reading this because you are grieving, because your chest aches, your mind wanders. You don't want to let go, I know. But listen, holding on won't bring them back. It will only shackle you. So allow yourself to break. Cry as much as you need. Scream into your pillow. Say you hate the whole world for this cruel irony. Say you will never love again, never believe. And then, in the silence, listen to your heart. See what remains when the hope of possession dissipates. You remain. You without masks, you without scripts, you raw, torn, pulsating. And this version of you is the most beautiful because it depends on no one. To love the impossible doesn't mean to love less. It means to love deeper. It proves that your love doesn't require a contract, vows, or the routine of a couple to be real. It demonstrates that your love is so vast that it survives absence and lives with it, so it can grow. Perhaps the secret that almost no one comprehends is that impossible love doesn't destroy your capacity to love. It destroys your capacity to love poorly. Having lived through this, you will no longer ignore inner cries, no longer settle for half measures, no longer force yourself into comfortable relationships. You become too vast to fit into small containers. And here, paradoxically, is where the healing truly begins. This is when you stop begging for the other person and start thanking for the wound, realizing that it pushed you out of the gray zone where you merely survived, but didn't truly live. Jung said that our greatest wounds are also our primary sources of light. Don't believe it immediately. Just remember it when nostalgia grips you so fiercely that it becomes unbearable. Breathe in, feel it, don't shy away from the pain. Every tear is a part of you that dies, making space for what is truly alive. Yes, impossible love breaks you, but in its own way, it also heals. Stop being afraid of the pain. Stop fighting life without such genuine passion. Now pause. Stop telling yourself you lost a great love. You didn't lose anyone. You lost the illusion that you needed another to be whole. You lost a falsehood. Even if it feels like a knife wound, it is always a victory. Close your eyes for a moment. Recall everything that captivated you in that person. The boldness with which he approached his canvas, the effortless joy in his creative process, the fire in his eyes that spoke of a life unburdened by conventional expectations. Now, ruthlessly ask yourself, why am I not like this with myself? Why did I strip this from myself to be accepted, to be grown up, to be restrained? This ruthlessness is here to invite you to something that mere presence never would have achieved. Become the master of what remains. You stand before your magnificent clear mirror, free of cloudy images and distortions. That artist was merely a catalyst, a breath that reminded me of the vibrant creativity that lives within me and demands to be lived. I know it's easier to lie down and repeat, what if we had been together? What if he hadn't already had his life in another city? What if the world wasn't so harsh? But listen, Jung whispers to those who lie awake in the night, grappling with their pain. In the soul, there are no accidents. There is necessity. You yearned for enlightenment. Nothing illuminates more deeply than loving what cannot be attained. Nothing shatters a complacent heart more powerfully than desiring the impossible and realizing that this is who you were always meant to be. Don't fear the solitude that remains when the other departs. Use it as a ritual by fire. Let everything that is not yours burn away. The fears woven into ingrained patterns, the laziness of being less than you've tried to be so far. Thank, even with tears, for the encounter with the one who showed you this. It is so rare, so rare. Few touch this abyss and return alive. Most run, distract themselves, drown out the noise so as not to hear the heart's cry in the darkness. But you are here, reading this, which means I know. You want to hear. When your nostalgia tightens, close your eyes and proclaim to yourself, I am everything I sought in his eyes. Repeat it until you believe. Repeat it until you hear it. What an irony. The other is gone, but left a map. Now every step is yours. Jung believed that a person's greatest debt is not to the one they love, but to the one they are capable of becoming. The pain today is an honest invitation to fulfill that debt. One day, I promise, you will smile on a gray Monday and realize that this person was neither fate nor punishment. They were a clarion call to become whole. While you breathe, feel, and don't let the impossible be merely a broken-hearted mirror. Let it be the mirror that gave you back your most precious self. Close your eyes for a moment. Inhale deeply, as if bidding farewell to a beautiful dream that no longer fits into the night. And ask yourself with almost brutal honesty, who am I after all this? You have been given permission to be bigger, more fearless, more alive. Jung would say, the soul does not waste encounters. Nothing is accidental. Every emptiness has left a mark on you that no one can erase. Every strained breath, every tear shed, every night spent in solitary silence, all of it has forged the muscle of your courage. You are no longer the same, and you should not wish to be. What burned, purified. What remained, remained by force. And if the pain returns, and I know it will, remember, it is only a reminder of the one you promised never to abandon again, yourself. When nostalgia tastes bitter, tell yourself, I am everything I sought. I am. I am. Repeat it until it becomes true, and know you have survived the impossible. If this stirred corners you wished not to touch, I understand. I too learned from hot experience that some loves come only to tear us open. But in the end, those tears stitch us back to who we truly are.